Steve, we'll start with the news that came out yesterday. You finally landed Michael Dawson. How pleased are you?
Well, we're delighted to get somebody of his experience and his ability. I've always thought that, especially in the centre of defence, a little bit of experience does everybody the world of good. And somebody with Michael's ability, his leadership skills, he's a real top professional boy, and we're delighted to bring him here. And it's been a long drawn out process, but we eventually got him, which I'm delighted about.
You've already spoken this season about the difficulty of putting back-to-back seasons together and keeping Hull in the Premier League second time round. Yeah. That leadership quality that Michael Dawson has, was that a decisive factor in bringing him here?
Well, certainly he's a quality player who's played at the highest level and played in the Premier League for the last 7-8 years or whatever it is. So all of the ingredients and everything what he brings to the table was the reason why we brought him here. And you're right, it's going to be difficult the second season. We've never managed at a club before. So the additions of people like himself and Jake, who's sitting next to me here, people like that can only help the cause. That, you know, we're trying to move the thing forward and trying to get a bigger and better squad if we possibly can, because it's a long season ahead with many games to play. And, you know, a quality addition like him, when he becomes available, we're delighted to get him.
When we spoke on Saturday, you said you wanted to bring in at least 2 or 3 players before Monday. By definition, that leaves 2. One of the names I've heard mentioned this morning, Adel Martinez. Can you tell us anything about him?
Adel Martinez? Have you got that right? Certainly not a Martinez. Look, I mean, I think, you know, it's always difficult in the job I've got, and especially the way the media is today and how everybody's interested in it. Shall we put it that way? And for instance, it's like Jordan Rhodes last. Sorry. It's like, yeah, it's like Jordan Rhodes last week. All of a sudden, it gets into the public domain, and it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So, you know, it's disappointing for everybody concerned, but more disappointing, I would presume, at this moment in time for somebody like Jordan. We're close. We're close to 1 or 2 things, very close, and one in particular, which will be another fantastic addition if we can pull it off. But until it's really rubber stamped, then I'm not going to say much.
Can you tell us at least whether that's a striker, midfielder, defender?
A striker.
You referred to Jordan Rhodes there. As far as you're concerned, is that deal dead and buried?
Yeah, it's dead and buried. Look, it's their prerogative, and as we said, you know, the last thing I wanted to do was go and we got an indication from Blackburn that they were willing to do a deal, and that obviously changed within 24 hours, and that's their prerogative. If that had said that to start with, that he wasn't for sale, no matter what they wanted to do, then fine, we'll walk away. But unfortunately, it gets a bit protracted, and as I said last weekend, we thought it was close, and then all of a sudden things changed that he's not for sale, so we'll move on to the next one. One
of the players you brought in, Harry Maguire from Sheffield United, played well in the Europa League game last week. Yeah. Does he feature in your first team?
Of course, yeah, of course. But of course he does. He features in the first team squad. But with Harry and with Andrew Robertson as well, it's a learning curve for them and where they've come from. Young Andy's played now twice in the Premier League and has took to it fantastically well. And Big Harry will be exactly the same. We're delighted with what he's done so far, and it's a big step up from Division 1 to right into the Premier League. But he's got all the ability in the world to make that step up. So we're very pleased with him.
So there's no thoughts of loaning?
No. I don't know where that nonsense came from. No.
Moving on to tomorrow night's game, you obviously go into it 1 down. Last week you rung the changes. How do you approach this one then?
Well, I've said for a long time now it's important that we keep a bit of freshness about us. And thankfully there was enough about us on Sunday against Stoke with 10 men after playing in Europe, how difficult it was. But there was enough energy and, as I said, freshness in the team that they managed to get a result. So we know that we'd love to have in the next stages of it. To get in the group stages would be terrific for the club. We're aware of that. we're also aware of how difficult it is with all the pitfalls that come with it. We'll be going all out tomorrow to try and get a result and get us through to the league situation, which we'd all look forward to.
Does that force your hand to play your best 11, or do you have to consider the Premier League game?
Of course I have to consider the Premier League too. But I've said repeatedly now for a best part of 12 months now, the squad that got us to the FA Cup final was rotated, if that's the right word. You know, we've got a squad in depth which I'm very, very comfortable with. We made wholesale changes last week. You know, I think we made 9 or 10. I don't think it's going to be as many this week, but we'll certainly make a few.
Jake, how keen are you to be involved in tomorrow night and help Hull get through to the league stages?
Yeah, of course. You know, I come to this club wanted to play here, to play football and play European football. You know, there's nothing like, you know, being a young lad and being involved in big games. Obviously, we're going to the game 1-0 down, but you know, it's a test we're all looking forward to, and you know, we want to overcome.
As we spoke about there, Michael Dawson's obviously signed now. You know him very well from your days at Tottenham. Did you have a chat with him beforehand?
Yeah, you know, I keep in touch with a few of the lads from Spurs, and he was one of them. You know, he asked how it was. Obviously, his brother was here for a long time, so he knew about the area, he knew about the club, etc. But you know, I think once he spoke to the gaffer, as we did, myself and Tom, it was you know, it was a big persuasion to come here, and you know, it's a massive addition to the squad, you know, on and off the field. So you know, one we're all looking forward to working with.
When you consider that you've arrived, Tom Huddlestone's arrived, Michael's now arrived, is there a sense that something special is actually being built here at Hull, and this is a club here to stay in the Premier?
Yeah, I'd like to think so. You know, I think I've touched on it before. We all had years on our contracts, you know, at Tottenham, and we've come up here to play football. We want to play, you know, we want to come here and play good football and be competitive in the big league. So, you know, I think the manager and the chairman's building a squad to do that.
Just finally, Steve, how much easier does it make your job to attract new quality players, Premier League standard players, when you're able to bring in the Dawsons, the Huddlestones, the Livermore?
Well, of course. I mean, it helps, and you know, I remember signing Tom was the first one we signed, and I think that shook everybody to think, well, we're here to stay, if that's the right word. And you know, the addition of Tom brought, you know, Jake, who's his best pal, all of a sudden. So we've managed to bring in 2 or 3 from Spurs, and we've managed to do, you know, and repeatedly keep building the squad, and that's my job, to make sure that we never stand still. We're always trying to get better, and as long as I'm sitting in the seat, that's got to be the way forward. You know, you see where the club has come from in a couple of years. You know, the squad now to what it was 2 years ago. No disrespect to what it was 2 years ago, but it's light years away, and that's got to keep improving.
In terms of this game, Steve, you were goal behind. Are you going to be impressing on your squad? You need to have a little bit of patience in this game.
Well, it's vitally important, patience in Europe. The one thing you can't be is gung-ho. They're good opposition. They've got some good players. You don't finish 5th in the Belgium League and win the cup if you're not a good side. So of course you've got to have a bit of patience. You've got to have a bit of guile about you. And as I said, we can't be gung-ho, because if we leave ourselves exposed at the back, then like we did against Trenchant, you know, we conceded after a minute. So it's vitally important that patience is a key.
What did you learn from that first game about them and their style, Steve?
Well, it's a typical, when you play in Europe, and it was a typical one of those games where you think you're in complete control of the game, and all of a sudden within 10 minutes it all turned round. We made a mistake, cost us for the goal, and all of a sudden for 10-15 minutes it was a difficult cup tie. We missed a few chances in the game, we got back into it. So it's all to play for. It should be a great occasion. A full house, I believe, again is on the cards, so we look forward to that challenge.
Do you play at an increased tempo though, from away at home rather than...
Well, I think it's vitally important that we play at a level which we're comfortable with. And the one thing about the Premier League to other leagues is the pace of it, the tempo, the quickness to it is the main difference between the Premier League and any other league that you play in all around Europe. So we've got to play at our pace to make sure that we we are on the front foot against them.
You talked about the importance of getting through to the group stages. Can you expand on why you think it's so important? Is it a squad psyche type of situation?
Well, not just for the players. The players, as I said to them when we started in Europe, you know, you go into the group stages and all of a sudden play one of the big boys in and around Europe. It's the great nights and European nights are the things that when your career finishes, you remember them. And you know, if we can come and get a really big pull here and a big European night, it's what you play football for, what you're involved with football for. And to be fair, this club has never really been there, so it's a journey that we're all going to try and enjoy if we can, and let's hope we can pull it off.
Does it also the fact that, you know, you've got a European experience, and if you qualify for those group stages, does that almost make the club more attractive from people outside, people you might want to attract in, new players to the club?
Well, it can only help. Make no mistake. The European thing is a bonus, but the Premier League is the biggest attraction. The Premier League is the biggest attraction that most footballers want to come and play in the Premier League, and I think that's key. You know, we enjoy the European nights, of course, but we must keep the club in the Premier League and stay here because, you know, as I've said repeatedly, the difference between where we are now and 2 years is light years, and that's got to keep improving.
And you're talking about, you know, sort of giving a lot of thought to your selection on this one, but with a weather eye to Sunday's game against Aston Villa. Goals are where it's going to be at, isn't it, to get through to the group stage? So is that where you're thinking more about changes?
The one thing, you've got to win the match.
Yeah.
It's quite simple. We've got to win the match, and we're capable of that. No matter what lineup I pick tomorrow, we're capable of winning the game. So that's the most thing that's foremost in my mind is to win this game and get through the group stages.
What did you think about all that kerfuffle after the game? It was very disappointing, wasn't it?
With the supporters?
Yeah.
Well, it is a disappointment because thankfully there's no other action, but it is a disappointment that the one thing you don't want to be doing is having them ugly scenes, what we all seen on the TV and what was reported on. You know, for what I'm hearing, you know, we did nothing wrong, the whole supporters, and they kept their calm very, very well. So let's hope there's no nonsense, no repeat of anything like that, and just let's enjoy the match and enjoy the game and enjoy the occasion without any trouble.
Jake, Steve's talking about, you know, these are the sort of nights that players want to play in, and you know, big European nights. So for your, you know, point of view, are you banging on the manager's door to play? Because you know, you didn't obviously play in the last leg, and I know Premier League's important, there's rotation, but you'll want to play, won't you, tomorrow night?
Yeah, of course. You know, the manager's door's always open, so no need to bang it down. But there's, of course, you know, we've built a squad here which everyone wants to play, and you know, these games, big games, of course, everyone wants to play, everyone wants to be available, and you know, in contention to play. So you know, everyone will prepare as they would.